Right, let's add some colour. So we've got our flattened layer here, and I want to select it so I can fill it with colour. I know a lot of you probably are thinking we're going to use the brush tool, and have seen lots of brush tool tutorials and stuff, and we will get into that, but today we're going to use something a little bit bigger and easier to begin with. So we're going to select the robot and then fill it in using the paint bucket tool or the gradient tool, and the shortcut for that is G. Okay, and we're also going to select using the magic wand tool, which is up here. Okay, and that is shortcut W. Okay, so if I click my magic wand, that allows us to select objects. However, because there's so much detail and all bits and bobs everywhere, if I click on my destroyer, you can see Photoshop's only getting bits and bobs because everything's so different. I think it can't possibly unite them all. So what we can do is a real simple trick for that. Instead of clicking in, we select the outside, and that's because that's all the same, because there's nothing there, and that's really easy. And we can hold down Shift, and we can just make sure we click and select the bits under his arm, and then we can go to Select, Inverse. So instead of, even though we selected the outside, we can inverse that now, or invert it, and we've now selected the inside. There's one more thing we want to do. We want to make a new layer, because we don't want to paint on this layer, as we will just paint over the detail and the whole thing will disappear. So where we made a new group, on the right hand side there is a little new layer icon. We can click that and we get a new blank layer with nothing on. Now we can go to our paint bucket tool and we can fill this blank area. I can hide that even with colour. So there's the colours down here. We will look at that one underneath in a second. Let's focus on the top one. So we can click on there and we get our colour picker ground out. At the moment we're on black, so let's go on to the H, hues, and we can see we can pick a variety of colour, and our little selection is down here, so we can just click here and we can start moving around, and you can see in this window here that is the colour we are looking at. So let's pick, I'm going to pick like a blue, kind of steel blue, something like that. That looks good. Click OK, and then we can just pop, yeah, one click and it's filled in. And to deselect, we can just click on our Marque Tool and click off. Okay, that's a quick way of deselecting from stuff. We can also go up to select and deselect there. So Command D, Control D will also do the same thing. Okay, and then we'll turn our layer on, and of course we can't see it because this is perfectly covering, but hey, let's try blending mode. Pop down an overlay, and there we are. We have coloured in our destroyer in a solid colour. And obviously feel free to play around with these blending modes. Soft light gives a slightly lesser look. Things like multiply will darken the layers. Screen will put the blue on but lighten the layer. And things like difference will do some really crazy stuff. Okay, so have a play around with those blending modes. They're really, really fun. There's your overlay. However, things are a little bit, it's all kind of one colour, so we could do something else, couldn't we? Let's make another layer. So let's label this one solid blue. And let's call this one gradient. And we'll hide that. And on the gradient one, you guessed it, we're going to make a gradient. So we click on our paint bucket and we select gradient instead. And here is where the second colour comes into play. And you can see up here the gradient we're going to make is going from blue to white, blue to white. So I can also click on my white one underneath and I can, for instance, go to an orange. So I could actually let's do that, maybe something like that. Okay, and now we've got a gradient going from blue to orange. Pretty cool. We need to select again. If we go up to our selection tool, or selection window, sorry, we can actually reselect the last selection we've made, so we don't have to go through the clicking and inversing. We can reselect, and there it is. Really handy. So on the gradient, we can click on here, and we're going to just click and draw a line. Before I do that, I've just noticed I'm on the circle gradient here, so I can show you. I'm going to click and drag out. You can see it has a circle gradient starting from the blue and going to the yellow. If I switch that over and click again, it's going to start from yellow and go to blue. Okay, so you can switch this around and have some fun. I'm just going to do a simple line, so then with that in mind I can just click a straight line and I'll get a gradient like so, going from blue to yellow. And wherever we start that, if we start and do a really short one, we will get a very tight gradient, and if I do a nice long one, it'll get much smoother. So it's up to you where you start these things, okay? And this is how we make a gradient. So maybe let's try that. And the same thing, we can deselect, yeah, like this, or we can just click on our Marque Tool and click off. And again, if we overlay this, you can see we get a really nice effect. Okay, so there's one solid blue, there's one with a gradient. You can use this to cast light, turn, you know, kind of mix things up a bit, but both have their uses. Okay, so that's basically how to use the paint bucket and gradient tool, as well as selecting objects.